I was 3 minutes late for the Acela to Boston. After sprinting through Penn Station, I boarded breathless only to find my seat taken by Juliet, the new intern. My fiancé, Donovan, was leaning over her, gently touching her hair and murmuring reassurances. I got off the train, sent him a text ending our 5-year relationship, and walked away. He thought I was just being jealous. That night, after his mother, Vivian called to demand I resend the wedding cancellation. I knew he didn't understand at all. You did what? I was 3 minutes late, but I made the train to Boston. I also made it to the ugliest end of my 5-year relationship. The carriage was crowded, the overhead racks already stuffed with bags. I dragged my suitcase down the aisle, sweat beating on my forehead, my breath still ragged, and saw Juliet sitting in my window seat. She was wearing a light pink knit sweater and a men's blazer was draped over her lap. I recognized the blazer. It was Donovan's, and Donovan was standing right beside her, one hand braced on the seat back, the other lightly stroking her hair. The gesture was practiced, tender. He was murmuring, "It's fine. Sloane's not that petty. You're new to the project, nervous about your first business trip. It's normal for me to look out for you." Juliet looked up at him, her eyes red-rimmed. "But this is Sloane's seat. She'll understand," he said without turning to look at me. I stood in the aisle, my fingers gripping the handle of my suitcase. The bright train car lights left no detail hidden. Juliet saw me and shot up as if startled. "Sloane, you're here. I didn't mean to take your seat," Donovan said. "I get motion sickness and could sit here for a bit." Donovan finally turned around, seeing my sweaty face. His first words were, "What took you so long?" The whole team was waiting. I stared at him silent. He frowned, his tone softening slightly. "Look, it's just a seat. Juliet was up until midnight organizing files and isn't feeling well. You can take her seat. Just back there." I followed his gaze. A few rows back, an aisle seat next to a woman holding a baby with 2 large bags piled at her feet. That wasn't Juliet's ticketed seat. It was one they had swapped for. Suddenly, the whole situation felt absurd. For 5 years I had stood by Donovan. From his time as a junior manager to his current role as a project lead, I'd pulled all-nighters with him on proposals, entertained clients, helped his mother pick out our future home, and played the part of the perfect supportive partner. And now I was expected to give up my own seat. "Is this my assigned seat?" "Yes." Donovan paused. "Sloane, don't make a scene on the train." I asked again, my voice level. "Is this my assigned seat?" The car went quiet for a moment. Juliet clutched his blazer, whispering, "Sloane, please don't be angry. I'll get up now." She said the words but didn't move. Donovan's face darkened. "Look what you did. You scared her. She just graduated. She doesn't know any better. You're a senior director and my fiancé. Can't you be a little more generous?" The word fiancé coming from his lips felt like a rusty nail twisting in my chest. I didn't argue. I just glanced at my phone. 1 minute until departure. I pulled my suitcase back and turned toward the door. "Sloane, where are you going?" Donovan called after me. I didn't look back. An attendant said, "Ma'am, the doors are closing." "I'm getting off," I said. The attendant, surprised, stepped aside. As I stepped onto the platform, the train door slid shut behind me. Through the glass, I saw Donovan rush to the door, his brow furrowed, his mouth forming words I couldn't hear but knew well. "Are you crazy?" Juliet stood behind him, still holding his blazer. The train began to move. I stood still on the platform as the tightness in my chest finally began to ease. My phone buzzed. A message from Donovan. What's that supposed to mean? I looked at the words and laughed. "Type slowly. We're done." After sending it, I turned off our shared location. Then I opened the wedding planning group chat and removed the planner. "Maya, wedding is on hold. Pause all current work," Maya replied almost instantly. "Are you sure?" I looked down at the engagement ring on my finger. I had paid the difference for this ring myself. Donovan had said at the time, "We're going to be a family, so what does it matter? If you like it, just use your card." I'd found it sweet then. Now I just felt foolish. I took the ring off and buried it in the deepest pocket of my bag. I'm sure. Half an hour later, I booked a business class seat on the next ISA. Not to chase them, but because I still had to get to Boston. I was leading a project there that I had worked on for 8 months, and I wasn't going to let it be ruined by Donovan and Juliet. Before I boarded, Donovan called. I declined. He called again. I declined again. The third time he sent a voice message. His tone clipped with impatience. Sloan, are you done with this tantrum? Juliet just sat in your seat for a minute. Is that really such a big deal? Get a ticket for the next train and get over here. The pre-meeting with the client this afternoon is your responsibility. I saved the voice message and sent him a text. The project is my responsibility. You are not. This time he didn't reply. By the time I reached Boston, it was dark. The hotel receptionist handed me my key card. Mr. Scott's team has already checked in, she said. I nodded and went up to my room. Just as I walked in, Donovan's mother, Vivian, called. Her voice was sharp without any of the usual pleasantries. Sloan, the wedding planner, just informed me the wedding is off. You two were supposed to be on a business trip together. What did Donovan do? I stood by the window, watching the traffic below. 5 years ago, when Vivian first called me, she had been so warm, calling me Dear Sloan, as if I were her own daughter. I later learned that her warmth was directly proportional to my useful. Vivian, I said calmly. The wedding is off. It's true. There was a 2-y pause. Then her voice rose. Don't be impulsive. The wedding is in 2 months. What about all the time and money we've already spent on this? That's something for you to worry about, I said. She was stunned. Hung up. Just as I put the phone down, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Donovan stood outside. His face grim with a redid Juliet trailing behind him. He knocked. Sloan opened the door. I didn't move. He lowered his voice. Stop this. You're embarrassing me in front of an intern. Looking at the two of them, it suddenly hit me. From the train to the hotel. His concern was never about my feelings, but always about his own image. I picked up my phone and dialed the front desk. Hello, there are people harassing me outside my room. Could you please send security? Donovan's knocking stopped. Juliet started to cry softly. Donovan, it's all my fault. I wasn't listening. I put my phone on silent, opened my laptop, and began preparing for the next day's meeting. That night, Donovan sent me 27 messages, ranging from demands to pleas to commands. The last one came at 1 a.m. Sloan. You had better show up to the meeting tomorrow and act normal. Don't let our personal issues affect work. I looked at the screen and smiled. I then saved the screenshot of the train seat, the breakup text, and a video of him harassing me at my door into a new folder. The folder's name was simple, Evidence for Dissolution. The next morning at 8:30, I walked into the hotel restaurant. Donovan was already at a window table. Juliet sat across from him, holding a glass of warm milk, her eyes still swollen. When she saw me, she stood up immediately. Sloan, I'm so sorry about yesterday. I didn't realize you would be so upset. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was just loud enough for the colleagues at nearby tables to hear. I got my coffee and sat at a different table. I'm not the one you should be apologizing to. Juliet froze. I looked up at her. You took my seat, but Donovan was the one who told you to. If you're truly sorry, you should ask him why he uses my things to do favors for others. The restaurant fell quiet. Donovan put down his coffee cup. Sloan stopped being passive-aggressive. I ignored him and opened my laptop to review the presentation. Juliet stood there, her face white with embarrassment. Donovan pulled her back to her seat. Eat, he said gently, as if comforting a wronged child. I used to feel a pang of hurt when he did that. Not anymore. At 9:30, we arrived at the client's office. The Boston project was a major annual partnership. I was the lead on the proposal with Donovan as the project head. Juliet, as an intern, was supposed to be taking notes and printing documents. But just before we entered the conference room, Donovan pulled me aside. Let Juliet open the meeting today. I looked at him. Why? She prepared all night. She needs the opportunity. The client wants to hear the proposal, not one whole story. Donovan's face hardened. Can you please not bring your personal feelings into work? You're the director. What's the big deal about letting a newcomer get some exposure? Closed my laptop. Fine. He opens. You take responsibility for the outcome. He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Exactly what it sounds like. The meeting began. Juliet stood before the screen, her voice trembling. On the very first slide, her self-introduction. She mispronounced the client's company name. The client lead, Mr. Hayes, looked up. When did we change our name? Juliet panicked and looked to Donovan. He immediately jumped in. Apologies. Our new colleague is a bit nervous. He then glanced at me, a clear signal for me to rescue the situation. I didn't move, Juliet continued. On the third slide, she read last year's market data as the previous year's. On the fifth, she mixed up the competitor's strategy. On the eighth slide, a page with an undid internal note appeared on the screen. The note read, Sloan, this slide feels too aggressive. Can we soften it? Donovan said. The client prefers a gentler approach. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Mr. Hayes's expression was grim. Donovan could no longer sit still. Sloan, take over. I didn't hesitate. I walked to the front, unplugged Juliet's laptop, and connected my own. My apologies. That was an unconfirmed, erroneous version of the presentation. I will now present the official proposal. I didn't waste a word. 20 minutes later, Mr. Hayes's expression had softened. As the meeting concluded, he spoke to me privately. Sloan, let's have you oversee the final proposal. Our budget for this project is substantial. It's not the place to train newcomers. His words were polite, but they were a clear rebuke. Juliet kept her head down, tears splashing onto her notepad. Donovan saw the client out. When he returned, his first words were, Sloan, why didn't you step in sooner? I looked at him. Weren't you the one who told me not to bring personal feelings into work? He suppressed his anger. You knew she wasn't ready, and I knew it was a client meeting. She's just a newcomer, which is why she has no right to alter an official proposal without authorization. Juliet sobbed. Sloan, I didn't change it on my own. Donovan said I could optimize the wording. Donovan cut her off. That's enough. I saw a flicker of unease in his eyes. Picked up my laptop. Before the afternoon review, I'll send all version histories to the project group chat. It will be crystal clear who changed what. Juliet's face turned even paler. On the way back to the hotel, Donovan and I were in the same car. Juliet was put in another. As soon as the door closed, his facade dropped. What exactly are you trying to do? I stared out the window. End the engagement, break up, go our separate ways after the project is handed over. He scoffed as if he'd heard a joke. All because of a seat. I turned to face him. It was never about the seat. Then what was it? Looking at him, I realized he truly didn't get it. Or maybe he did and he just didn't care. It was you knowing it was my seat and still letting someone else sit there. It was you when I finally boarded the train, not asking if I was tired, but only why I was late. It was you touching her hair and assuming I'd understand. It was you telling me to sit in the back without a single word of discussion. Donovan was silent for a few seconds, then he said, You're just jealous. I laughed. See, you can only accept that answer because it means you don't have to admit you were wrong. His expression changed. Sloan, we have 5 years together. You can't just throw it all away with a text. I pulled out my phone and showed him the confirmation email from the wedding planner. Pausing all services. Already have. His face finally froze. You really notified them? Are you insane? My mother already knows. She called me last night. How could you tell her directly? I retorted. Should I not inform our parents about calling off a wedding? Should I have informed Juliet instead? The car fell silent. The driver glanced at us in the rear-view mirror, then quickly looked away. Donovan spoke through gritted teeth. You're going to regret this. put my phone away. Save that for yourself. The car stopped at the hotel. Juliet's car had just arrived as well. She got out and ran toward Donovan, tripping and nearly falling into his arms. He instinctively caught her. I stood on the steps, watching calmly. Juliet looked up at me as if terrified and quickly pushed away from him. Sloane, don't misunderstand. I didn't say a word. I just took out my phone and took a picture. Donovan saw it and was furious. What are you taking a picture of? I put the phone back in my bag, documenting facts. He reached for me. I stepped back. The hotel security guard was right at the door. Donovan, I said, touch me again and I'm calling the police. His hand froze in midair. Juliet burst into tears. Colleagues standing nearby turned to look. I turned and walked into the elevator. As the doors closed, Donovan's call came through again. I declined it. Then a text from Vivian popped up. Sloane, I know you're upset, but you need to think about the bigger picture. This is a critical time for Donovan's career. Don't let a small issue ruin both of your futures. I stared at the words, my fingers tightening. I opened my banking app and canceled the joint payment authorization for next month's mortgage on our apartment. Then I opened the wedding contracts and sent a message to Maya. Initiate cancellation for all contracts signed under my name. The penalty fees will be deducted from my deposit. Do not refund the remainder to Donovan's family. Maya asked. No turning back? I replied. None. At 10 p.m., Donovan finally noticed the first change. He called, his voice tight with panic. Sloane, what happened to the mortgage payment authorization? I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window in my hotel room, my voice calm. Why should my money continue to pay for your family's expenses? His breathing on the other end grew heavy. We're about to get married. The wedding is off. I haven't agreed to a breakup. I don't need your agreement. Hung up. Not long after, Vivian called again. This time, there was no condescension in her voice. Trembled. Sloane, tell me, what on earth did Donovan do? I looked out at the lights of Boston. Vivian, you should be asking him. The third morning, the project team held an emergency review. The client had demanded a final confirmed version of the plan by the afternoon, or the Boston project would be suspended. Donovan looked terrible. Juliet sat beside him, head down, her eyes still red. I sat across from them and opened my laptop. Donovan spoke first. There was a small issue at yesterday's meeting, mainly due to a newcomer's nervousness. Let's not blow it out of proportion. I looked up. Small issue. He shot me a warning glance. I ignored it and projected the version history onto the screen. The final official proposal was confirmed at 9:46 p.m. the night before last. At 11:23 p.m., someone using Juliet's account accessed the shared folder and modified 15 pages. At 12:17 a.m., Donovan used his account to approve this version. The operation logs were clear on the screen. No one in the conference room spoke. Juliet's face was ashen. Sloane, I just wanted to make the language gentler. Who told you to change the client's name? Yes. She stammered. Donovan frowned. Sloane, there's no need to persecute a newcomer. Fine, I nodded. Then I'll hold the person in charge accountable. I opened a second file. Donovan, as the project lead, you approved an unvetted, incorrect version and instructed an intern to present at a client meeting, causing the client to question our team's professionalism. This is not a newcomer's mistake. It's a management failure. The project's deputy lead, David Sterling, who was chairing the meeting, looked grave. Donovan, how do you explain this? Donovan looked at me with an expression I knew all too well. It was the same look he gave me whenever he made a mistake at work. A plea for me to jump in, to smooth things over, to take the blame. This time I took a sip of water and said nothing. Donovan was forced to explain himself. I just wanted to give a newcomer a chance to grow. I didn't expect her to be so nervous. Juliet looked up sharply. Donovan, didn't you tell me that Sloane's proposal was too aggressive and I should make it softer? The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. Donovan's face turned ashen. I told you to optimize the wording, not to change the data. But you said clients like to hear a gentle tone, that they don't like Sloane's aggressive style. She trailed off suddenly, realizing her mistake, and fell silent. It was too late. Everyone had heard. David Sterling looked at me. Sloane, your thoughts? I only look at the results, I said. Right now, the client doesn't trust our professional process. I suggest that I handle the revisions and liaise with them directly this afternoon. Donovan and Juliet should have their editing permissions for this version temporarily revoked. Donovan, shut up. Are you trying to sideline me? I'm trying to save the project, I said calmly. This is my project, then deliver the results a project lead should. He was cornered, his face flushed with anger. David Sterling tapped the table. Well, do as Sloane says. Sloane will lead the client meeting this afternoon. Donovan, you will attend as an observer. Juliet's tears fell. Sorry. It's all my fault. No one responded. This time, her tears were met with awkward silence. After the meeting, Donovan cornered me in the hallway. Are you satisfied now, Sloane? I tried to walk past him. He grabbed my wrist. You were never like this before. Stop. What was I like before? He stared at me. You used to care about the bigger picture. I pulled my hand away. Your bigger picture was me cleaning up your messes, taking the fall for Juliet, and saving your face in front of clients. I just wish you wouldn't be so ruthless. I'm not the one who was ruthless. Just as he was about to speak, Juliet came out of the conference room. She stopped when she saw us. Donovan, did I make you two fight? I couldn't help but laugh. You finally got one thing right. Juliet's face fell. Donovan said sternly, go back to your room and rest. Juliet bit her lip. But the afternoon meeting. You won't be attending. Panic flashed in her eyes. Donovan, I really know I was wrong. Please don't kick me off the project team. The way she said it was odd. It sounded less like a subordinate to a boss and more like a woman to a man. I looked at Donovan. He avoided my gaze and I suddenly understood. This wasn't the first time Juliet had crossed the line. It was just the first time I had caught it in person. That afternoon at the client meeting, I presented the revised proposal. Mr. Hayes was satisfied and moved the contract forward, but his final words were telling. Sloane, we trust you, but that doesn't mean we trust all of your firm's internal arrangements. Please ensure the execution team remains stable going forward. When that feedback got back to the company, David Sterling called me that evening. Sloane, you'll continue to lead the Boston project. I'll have a talk with Donovan. Okay, I said. David hesitated. Word about you and Donovan has gotten around the office. No. Will it affect you? Well, After hanging up, I received a text from Donovan. Fine, you win. But don't make a big deal about the wedding. That phrase, don't make a big deal. He'd used it so many times. It was as if all my rational decisions were to him just emotional outbursts. I replied, I will be at your family's dinner tomorrow night to discuss the dissolution of our engagement in person. He responded almost immediately. Don't provoke my mother. Smiled. He wasn't worried about me being attacked by his family. He was worried about me provoking his mother. That evening, back in my hotel room, I began to tally up 5 years of finances. The down payment on the apartment was $200,000. I had contributed $150,000. Renovations cost $100,000, of which I had fronted $60,000. The engagement party, photos, and wedding deposits were mostly charged to my credit card. Donovan's most frequent line was, "We'll be a family soon. Why keep such close track?" I used to think that family didn't need to keep track. Now I knew that the one who doesn't keep track is the one who gets taken advantage of. I exported all my transaction records. I also found the co-ownership property agreement. Vivian had tried to convince us to keep the mortgage solely in Donovan's name for tax purposes while I paid the cash. I hadn't agreed. The final legally binding contract stated clearly that my contribution to the down payment was my protected personal asset. If the engagement was terminated, Donovan was required to return the principal amount plus a reasonable appreciation within 30 days. My late father had insisted I sign that agreement. He had said, "Sloan, feelings are feelings, but a safety net is a safety net." I had thought he was being cynical then. Now, with red eyes, I scanned the agreement into the folder. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole. This time it wasn't Donovan. It was Juliet. She stood there alone, holding a takeout cup of chamomile tea, looking timid. "Sloan, can I talk to you?" "About what?" I asked through the door. "About Donovan," she said in a low voice. I didn't open the door, not interested. Suddenly, she pressed closer to the door, her voice turning cold and sharp. "Sloan, do you really think you can just walk away? He's with you out of habit, not love." My hand on the doorknob froze, she continued. "He told me being with you is exhausting, too intense, like being in a meeting all the time." I turned on my phone's voice recorder. She was still talking, unaware. "He said he feels relaxed with me. Sloan, what does 5 years matter? In the end, he's going to choose the woman who doesn't stress him out." I laughed. Then through the closed door I said, "Juliet, if you're so sure of that, why don't you have the courage to say it in front of him?" Silence from the other side. I saved the recording file named Juliet's Provocation Recording. The next day the project team headed back. This time I arrived at the station early. I sat in my assigned seat, set up my laptop and put on my headphones. No one dared to ask me to switch. When Donovan boarded, he paused for a second when he saw me. Juliet followed behind him and whispered, "Donovan, my seat is back there." Donovan glanced at me. In the past, I would have been the one to say, "You two sit together. It's easier to discuss the project." This time I didn't. I kept my eyes on my work. After a few moments of standing there, Donovan had no choice but to lead Juliet to the back of the car. Once the train started moving, he sent me a text. "Juliet came to see you last night." I glanced at it and didn't reply. He sent another. "She's young and doesn't always think before she speaks. Don't hold it against her." I flipped my phone face down. An hour later, Juliet posted on social media. It was a photo of a custom latte on the small train table. The caption read, "It's so nice to be taken care of on a business trip." Someone remembered exactly how I like my coffee. I didn't like the post. I took a screenshot and saved it. Back at the office that afternoon, David Sterling called a project debriefing. The meeting had barely started when Juliet stood up, her eyes red, and apologized. "I'm sorry, everyone. My inexperience caused problems for the project. I'm willing to take full responsibility." It was a well-delivered performance. The words, "take full responsibility," only made the room more tense. As several colleagues exchanged uncomfortable glances, Donovan seized the moment. "It's normal for a newcomer to make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them." I opened my laptop. "Then, please have Juliet start by explaining why she had editing permissions for the official proposal." Juliet frozen. "Donovan gave them to me, and why wasn't the revised version put through the proper review process?" I thought if Donovan had seen it, it was okay. I turned to Donovan. "So what responsibility is she taking? By crying or by writing a 2000-word apology?" Someone in the room stifled a laugh. Donovan's face was grim. "Sloan, that's enough. I'm talking about work procedures right now. Are you saying you don't have a personal bias in this?" I looked up at him. "Have a personal bias?" The meeting room fell silent. Continued. "My personal bias is that I'm done cleaning up after the two of you." I projected 3 documents onto the screen. The first showed the proposal modification records. The second was a log of the client meeting failures. The third was a list of all the work I had redone for Juliet over the past 3 months. Since joining the team, Juliet has sent the wrong files 7 times, missed client confirmation 4 times, and sent an internal price list to an external group chat 3 times. Each time I was the one who fixed it. Juliet's face was chalk white. "Sloan, I didn't know you were keeping track. I'm not holding a grudge." I looked at her. "I'm keeping a work log." David Sterling flipped through the printouts, his expression growing darker. "Donovan, were you aware of these incidents?" Donovan didn't answer immediately. I answered for him. He knew. I displayed a screenshot of a chat. It was from Donovan. Juliet just graduated. Don't be so hard on her. Help her fix it and I'll take you out to dinner tonight. There were more messages like that. I only showed 3. It was enough. David closed the file. Juliet is suspended from the Boston project. Report back to HR for reassignment. Donovan, your project lead authority is temporarily frozen. Sloan will take over. Juliet ran out of the room in tears. Donovan remained in his seat, his face ashen. After the meeting, he followed me to my office. Are you satisfied? Her chances of getting a return offer are ruined. I put the files in my cabinet. She made mistakes. It's normal for her review to be affected. But you know how hard she worked to get this internship. She needs this job. And I need a team that doesn't hold me back. He stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. Sloan, when did you become so cold? Closed the cabinet door. The moment you told me to sit in the back of the train. He was speechless. After a few seconds, he softened his tone. Sloan, I admit I handled the train situation poorly. But you don't have to take it this far, to the point of breaking off the engagement. We've been together for 5 years. The wedding is just around the corner. The wedding has been paused. My mother will never agree. This is between you and me. It's not about whether your mother agrees. Can't you be less assertive? I looked at him. Juliet had said that. Vivian had said that. And now he was saying it too. It seemed that in their eyes my competence, my contributions, my resilience, all were expected. But the moment I refused to yield, I was assertive. I opened a drawer and placed a document on the desk. This is a draft of the dissolution agreement. You can take it and have a look. Donovan looked down and saw the title. His face changed completely. You even prepared an agreement. Sloan, have you been wanting to break up for a long time? I laughed. See, it's my fault again. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He was silent. You just never thought I would actually leave, I said. That sentence seemed to hit him hard. He stood at my desk for a long time, motionless. Finally, he picked up the agreement. At the family dinner tomorrow night. You'd better not make a scene in front of the relatives. Shot back. You invited the relatives to pressure me, didn't you? His expression was momentarily flustered. I knew I had guessed right. The family dinner was originally a simple monthly get-together, but this time Vivian had made sure to invite every aunt and uncle. She wanted me to bow to the pressure of family elders. But she forgot that a larger audience also made it easier for me to make things clear once and for all. That night Mia called me. The wedding planner is on hold. The hotel called to ask why. I told them it was a mutual decision to call off the wedding. Thank you. Someone from Donovan's family called me. They asked if the deposit could be refunded to them. I laughed, the audacity. There's more. Maya said, lowering her voice. Donovan's mother went to the wedding planner's office today. She said the wedding is still on, that the bride is just having a bad mood and will get over it in a few days. My hand holding the phone tightened, my knuckles turning white. She really thought she could treat me like a prop. Are you going to the dinner alone tomorrow? Do you want me to come with you? No need. I looked at the bills and the agreement on my desk. They owed me this. I would get it back myself. The family dinner was set for 7:00 p.m. at a private dining restaurant, not their home. Vivian loved to put on an air of sophisticated elegance in front of relatives. When I arrived, the private room was already full. Donovan sat next to the head of the table, and Juliet was there. She was dressed in a white dress, sitting to Donovan's right, looking meek and fragile. The moment I entered, all eyes turned to me. Vivian was the first to speak, a forced smile on her face. Sloan, you're here. Come sit. You and Donovan had a little spat, but there was no need to alarm the wedding planner. She said it so casually, as if calling off a wedding was just a minor tiff. I didn't sit next to Donovan. I pulled out a chair by the door for an easy exit. Donovan frowned. Come sit over here. I placed my bag on the empty chair beside me. This is fine. Vivian's smile faltered. Donovan's aunt immediately chimed in. Sloane, you're overreacting. Donovan is under a lot of pressure at work. It's normal to mentor a young colleague. You two have been together for 5 years. Don't throw it all away over an intern. Juliet's eyes immediately re-eamed. It's all my fault. I didn't mean to cause trouble. The aunt was instantly sympathetic. See, she's just a sweet, naive girl. I looked up. A sweet, naive girl doesn't steal someone else's assigned seat. The room went silent. Juliet's tears hung on her lashes, not knowing whether to fall. Donovan warned in a low voice. Sloane, I looked at him. Was I wrong? Vivian put down her chopsticks. Sloane, I know you feel wronged, but this is a small matter. You and Donovan have 5 years of history. You can't let one moment of jealousy ruin it. I laughed. So, you also think I'm just jealous? What else could it be? Her tone was gentle, but her words were heavy. Sloane, you need to be more realistic. Donovan is in a high-profile position. People will always be trying to get his attention. You can't let every little thing derail a 5-year relationship. He nodded. So, you invited Juliet here today to help me practice. Vivian's face changed. Donovan slammed the table. Sloane, don't go too far. I ignored him. I took a file out of my bag and slid it across the table. Stopped right in front of Vivian. Since everyone is here, let's talk about ending the engagement. The atmosphere in the room completely shifted. Vivian didn't open the file. She just stared at me. You're serious. I was serious yesterday too, the aunt said disapprovingly. Sloane, this is just not practical. The invitations are sent and deposits are paid. Calling it off now would be incredibly awkward and a financial mess for everyone. I looked at her. So, when Donovan let an intern take my seat and publicly forced me to give way, that wasn't a slap in my face. It was just a seat. Then please give your seat to Juliet right now. The aunt's face stiffened. You see, I said. When it's your turn, it's not just a seat. No one spoke. Vivian finally opened the agreement. After reading 2 pages, her expression changed. Return of the down payment, reimbursement for renovation costs, proportional refund of wedding deposits. Sloane, you've calculated everything so clearly. This is strictly business now, I said calmly. Besides, we are no longer family. Who says we're not? Vivian's voice grew shrill. You and Donovan are not done. I took out my phone, opened the confirmation from the wedding planner, and placed it on the table. All wedding preparations have been paused. The venue, the planner, the photographer, all or are in the process of contract termination. Donovan finally couldn't sit still. On what grounds did you cancel everything unilaterally? Because I was the one who signed the contracts and I was the one who paid for them. He was silenced. Vivian immediately shot back. What about the apartment? The deed is in Donovan's name. I took out a second document, the supplementary agreement on the apartment's property rights. You were there when we signed it. My contributions are considered my premarital personal assets. Upon dissolution of the engagement, Donovan must return the funds within 30 days. Vivian flipped to the last page and saw her own signature. Her face turned shades of red and white. She had probably forgotten back then to get me to put up the money quickly. She had signed without hesitation. She thought my love for Donovan meant I would never actually hold her to it. Juliet, sitting beside them, looked shocked. She probably never imagined that the majority of Donovan's family's apartment was paid for with my money. Donovan whispered, Sloane, let's talk about these things in private. Fine, I nodded. Let's talk about this now. I hit play on my phone and the recording of Juliet at my door filled the room. He said he was relaxed with me. What does 5 years matter? He told me being with you is exhausting, like being in a meeting all the time. He needs someone who lets him relax. Juliet shot to her feet. You recorded me. I looked up. You tuned to my hotel room door in the middle of the night to provoke me. Is there a problem with me recording it? Donovan's face was ugly as he turned to Juliet. You went to her room and said these things. Juliet tearfully shook her head. That's not what I meant. I cut her off. What you meant is not important. What's important, Donovan, is that you allowed her to cross the line. And not just once. I opened the folder of screenshots. The ISA coffee, the hotel medicine bag, the late-night work photos. None of them were definitive proof of an affair, but each one was sickening, especially with Juliet's captions. So addictive to feel like you're the favorite. The expressions of the relatives in the room changed before they could dismiss me as overreacting. Now no one could. Vivian slammed the table in anger. Juliet, you're just an intern. Who told you to post all this nonsense? Juliet's face was pale. She wanted to cry but found that this time no one was there to comfort her. Donovan looked at me. His eyes full of complex emotions. Sloane, nothing happened between her and me. I know, I said. He was taken aback. I continued. So, I'm not here to catch you cheating. I'm here to inform you that I'm out. The room was terrifyingly quiet. I stood up and pushed the dissolution agreement in front of him. Whether you sign it or not is your business. In 30 days I will proceed with legal action. Vivian panicked. You can't do this. Donovan's career is at a critical point. If you make this public, it won't be good for anyone. I looked at her. It will be very good for me. With that I picked up my bag and walked out. Donovan chased after me, grabbing my arm in the hallway. Sloane, are you really going to destroy 5 years? Pulled my arm free. I'm not the one who destroyed it. His eyes were red. Is there no room for discussion? I looked at him 5 years ago. He confessed his feelings for me in a hallway just like this. His palms were sweaty then, and he swore he would be good to me for a lifetime. A lifetime is too long. He only lasted 5 years. There hasn't been any room since you said she wouldn't mind, I said. He turned and left. Behind me, I could hear Vivian's muffled, angry shouts from the private room, scolding both Juliet and Donovan. I walked out of the restaurant into the cool night air. My phone buzzed. It was an anonymous message. Sloane, you should know this. Juliet isn't just trying to steal your man. She's trying to steal your project. Below is a screenshot of a group chat. The chat was named Boston Task Force. In it, Juliet had written, "Once the Boston project is done, I'll be a core team member. Sloane will probably scale back her hours after the wedding anyway." Donovan said, "All the future core project opportunities will be mine." I stared at the words, a chill running down my spine. So, it wasn't just my seat they were after. It was my position. I stared at the anonymous screenshot for a long time. The group chat was called Boston Task Force, and besides Juliet, it included 2 project assistants and a design contractor. In the screenshot, Juliet's tone was completely different from her usual demeanor. Sloane is too intense. Even the clients find her exhausting. Donovan says she plans to step back and focus on her personal life soon. The project credits will definitely be adjusted later. I'm learning from Donovan now, and after they get married, I'll be the one taking over the client relationships. Honestly, Donovan is quite burned out by her. It's not always a good thing for a partner to be a control freak. It leaves a guy feeling micromanaged. Reading these words, I suddenly remembered Donovan once telling me, "Sloane, after we get married, you can step back from the corporate grind. I'll take care of us." I thought it was out of concern. Then now I understood it was a warning. He didn't want me to rest. He wanted me to step aside. The next morning at the office, I went straight to the IT department. I didn't make a big scene, simply requesting to export the entire access log for the Boston project's shared drive. The IT staffer hesitated. "This requires approval from the project head." "I am the project head now," I said. He nodded immediately. "No problem." Half an hour later, the full log was in my inbox. Juliet had on multiple occasions downloaded my early-stage proposals, including some of my personal files and client persona models that hadn't even been made public. And the person who granted her access was Donovan. I stared at the screen, the last bit of dull pain in my chest finally turning into a cold resolve. I could walk away from his emotional infidelity, but I would not let him use my professional work to pave his own path. I forwarded the log to David Sterling, our VP, with a note. This involves unauthorized access to sensitive project data. I recommend initiating an internal compliance investigation. David called me 10 minutes later, his voice stern. Sloan, are you sure you want to pursue this? I'm sure it will involve Donovan. I know you two. Cut him off. We've already ended our engagement. David was silent for 2 seconds. All right, I'll have compliance look into it. By the afternoon, the atmosphere in the office had changed. Juliet was called in for a meeting. When she came out, her face was pale, her eyes puffy, and completely swollen shut. She didn't return to her desk, but stormed into my office. The door wasn't fully closed, and she pushed it open. Sloan, are you trying to ruin my life? Colleagues outside turned to look. I looked up. Get out and knock. She was stunned. I repeated. Get out and knock. Humiliation washed over her face and tears welled up instantly. I'm just an intern. Why are you targeting me like this? I picked up my phone and started recording. Every word you say now will be documented. Her expression changed. Outside, people started whispering. Juliet bit her lip, softening her voice. Sloan, I know you don't like me getting close to Donovan, but work is work. I really just wanted to learn. Learn? Yes. Is that why you downloaded my personal models? Her eyes darted nervously. Donovan told me to look at them. He told you to. So you did. I thought you thought he was my fiancé. So what's mine was his. Juliet was speechless. I stood up and placed a printed log in front of her. Juliet, if you really want to learn, start by learning professional boundaries. She ran out crying. 10 minutes later, Donovan arrived. He didn't even bother to knock. Sloan, you scared compliance on her. I sat at my computer. I didn't sick compliance on her. She accessed project data without authorization. I was the one who gave her permission. Then you'll be investigated too. His face went rigid. Do you have to take it this far? It's company policy. You were never like this before. I laughed. Before I would have covered for you. That rammer stung him. Anger flared in his eyes. So now you're retaliating against me. I looked at him. Donovan, you're giving me too little credit. The engagement is over. That's personal. The project is business. You two just happen to be disgusting on both fronts, so I'm handling both at the same time. His chest heaved. Do you have to be so harsh? The truth is harsher than my words. Footsteps approached the door. David Sterling, the head of compliance, walked in. Donovan, we need to speak with you as well. Donovan glanced at me, and for the first time I saw panic in his eyes. I didn't look away. After he was led away, my office was finally quiet. That evening, Maya picked me up from work. The first thing she said was, Donovan's mother went to the wedding planners again today. I wasn't surprised. What did she say? She said, you were just throwing a tantrum and demanded they resume the wedding planning. She even threatened to leave terrible reviews and sue for emotional distress if the venue's booking was lost. I laughed. She's good at turning things around. Maya handed me a folder. Here are all the contract termination details. Our lawyer reviewed them. As the clears throat signatory, your process is sound. The penalties are deducted from your deposits, and any remaining balance can only be refunded to your original payment account. Also, I stopped the production of the wedding slideshow. Thanks for your hard work. He nodded. Maya looked at me with sympathy in her eyes. Sloan, are you really okay? Paused for a moment. Better than yesterday. It was the truth. The day I got off the train, I felt like my skin had been peeled off. But now, with every piece of myself I reclaimed, it felt like I was setting my own bones back into place. At 9 p.m. I got home. This was the apartment Donovan and I were supposed to live in after the wedding. I had overseen the renovations, chosen the curtains, and even personally measured the space for the custom-built double desk in the study. Now it all felt alien. I opened the closet and packed the few items of clothing Donovan had left here into a box. Then I found the list of promised wedding gifts his mother had flaunted. The list was impressive. Family heirlooms, luxury bedding, high-end home appliances. In reality, most of it was never purchased. Vivian had said, Let's just write it down for now. It will look good on the wedding day. I didn't expose her then. Now I took photos for my records. Just as I was taping up the second box, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Vivian stood outside, and beside her was Donovan. He looked terrible, holding a thick wedding invitation. Sloane opened the door. I need to talk to you. I didn't open it. Through the door I said, anything you have to say can be discussed with my lawyer tomorrow. Vivian was clearly not expecting to be left outside. Her voice rose in anger. Have you no manners? I am Donovan's mother, which is why it's even more inappropriate for you to be at my door this late at night to argue, I said. Donovan spoke. Sloane, just open the door. We won't argue. I looked at them. In the past, whenever they visited, I would have tea, fruit, and snacks ready. Vivian liked her water warm, no lemon. Donovan hated cilantro. I remembered all of it, but they never remembered that my stomach hurt when I worked late into the night. I picked up my phone and called building security. Hello, I have 2 uninvited visitors at my door. Could you please come up? Vivian's voice trembled with rage. Sloane, are you really going to be this ruthless? Through the door I said softly. You're the ones who were ruthless. Now it's just my turn to close the door. The next morning I went to my lawyer's office. Mr. Jensen laid out all the documents, apartment down payment contributions, renovation transfers, wedding contracts, engagement party expenses, jointly purchased furniture, and even a few emergency loans I had given Donovan's mother. The total was even higher than I had imagined. Are you sure you want to pursue all of this? Mr. Jensen asked after reviewing everything. Everything. He nodded. Including the loans to his mother. Some of those might be argued as gifts, he noted, pushing his glasses up. I pulled out my chat history. Every time Vivian had asked for Muti, she would say, I'll have Donovan transfer it to you in a few days. Or I'll pay you back when my investment matures. Or don't tell Donovan. I just need a little help. Back then to save her from embarrassment. I never pushed for it back, but the records were all there. Mr. Jensen smiled after reading them. That makes it much easier. Smiled back. It turned out the first step to clarity was to stop sugarcoating the hurt others caused you. At noon, Donovan sent me a long text message. Sloane, I've been thinking all night. What happened on the train was my fault. I shouldn't have let Juliet take your seat. And I shouldn't have ignored your feelings. But for you to escalate this to the company, the wedding planner, and our families is too much. We can talk, but don't hurt innocent people. I read it and just felt tired. Innocent people. He meant Juliet. He meant Vivian. He meant himself. Everyone but me. I replied. At 3:00 p.m. today, Mr. Jensen will send you the financial settlement letter. His call came instantly. I didn't answer. At 3 p.m. sharp, the legal letter was sent. At 3:07 p.m., Vivian called. Answered. This time she dropped the gentle act. Sloane, what is the meaning of this? You want me to pay you back? A loan is meant to be repaid. I said that was your gift to me as a future daughter-in-law. In the chat history you said it was a loan. Her voice turned shrill with anger. You were with Donovan for 5 years. What's wrong with buying me a few things? What kind of daughter-in-law calculates things like this? Corrected her. I am not your daughter-in-law, and I never will be. She was speechless. She started yelling, calling me cold-blooded, mestilistic, and ungrateful for biting the hand that fed me. I put the phone on speaker and turned on the recorder. When she had exhausted herself, I finally spoke. Vivian, you just admitted that I gave you that money, correct? The line went silent. Thank you for your cooperation, I said and hung up. Mr. Jensen, sitting across from me, couldn't help but chuckle. Miss Sloane, you have a real talent for evidence collection. I had good teachers, I said. At 5 p.m., the preliminary results of the compliance investigation came out. Juliet's unauthorized access was confirmed. Donovan's unauthorized granting of data permissions was confirmed. The Boston project team's permission management was found to be in serious violation of company policy. The official disciplinary action hadn't been announced, but Donovan's suspension as project lead was a certainty. When the news spread, The office break room was buzzing. When I walked in with my mug, the chatter instantly died. Smiled. "Please don't stop on my account," one of my female colleagues said awkwardly. "Sloan, we weren't talking about you." "I know," she hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Actually, Juliet has been crossing boundaries for a while. She was always bragging that Donovan was personally mentoring her, that you were too busy to train anyone. She even hinted that Donovan was looking for a more compliant co-lead in the future." Another colleague chimed in. "She even took a picture sitting in your office chair. Said she was getting a feel for the director's seat." My hand holding the mug tightened. "Is there a photo?" The colleague immediately found it on her phone. She posted it on a private account. I took a screenshot. In the photo, Juliet was sitting in my office chair holding my fountain pen with a caption, "One day I'll be sitting here too." She wanted my train seat. She wanted my project position. And she wanted my place in life. She just forgot to ask if I was willing to give it up. That evening, Donovan finally came to the law firm to see me. He hadn't slept well in days. His shirt was wrinkled and stubble dotted his chin. The first thing he said when he saw me was, "Sloan, let's not take it this far." I sat at the other end of the conference table. "This isn't a scene, it's a settlement." Mr. Jensen pushed a file toward him. "Mr. Scott, this is the dissolution of engagement and asset settlement plan proposed by Miss Sloan. You may have your own lawyer review it." Donovan didn't look at the lawyer. He only looked at me. "You're really going to settle accounts with me after 5 years? Is it only about money?" "It's about more than that," I said. "It's about dignity." His eyes raised slightly. "I admit I've been neglecting you lately. Juliet is new and doesn't know anything. So I was just looking out for her a bit more. Looking out for her to the point of giving her my seat, my project, my proposal, and my data." He had no words. I placed a print out of the train ticket on the table. "Donovan, I was 3 minutes late that day, not because I was deliberately making you wait. I was up until 3 a.m. the night before revising the client Q&A for you. That morning I answered 2 more client emails on your behalf. I hadn't even had breakfast when I rushed to the station." His face slowly turned white. Did he not know these things? He knew. He was just used to it. When I got on that train, I continued. "You didn't ask me why I was late. You only felt that I should have been on time, that I should have given up my seat, that I should have understood Juliet's needs." He hung his head. "Sorry." It was his first real apology, but it was too late. "I accept your apology," I said. "But the breakup is not up for debate." Donovan's head shot up. "Can't you just give me one more chance?" "Well, why not?" I looked at him. "Because I've given you too many." Suddenly, the conference room door was thrown open. Vivian rushed in, slamming a stack of invitations on the table. "I do not approve of this breakup. The invitations have all been sent out. Sloan, how do you expect our family to face people?" I picked up one of the invitations. Thick ivory and gold foil, very festive. It had my name and Donovan's on it. I looked at it for a moment, then put it down. "Then you can inform them that the wedding is." Vivian trembled with rage. "Is it so honorable for a woman to have her engagement broken?" I looked up. "Vivian, you have it wrong." I pushed the dissolution agreement toward her. "I'm the one breaking up with him. Donovan asked to meet at a coffee shop. I didn't want to go, but he said it would be the last time to discuss only the details of the breakup, not our relationship." I agreed. The place was one we used to frequent. The third table by the window had been our spot. He used to say the light there was perfect for taking pictures of me. But over 5 years, my phone filled with photos of him, whilst his phone had barely any of me. He was already waiting when I arrived. There were 2 coffees on the table, a hot Americano, and a caramel latte. He pushed the latte toward me. "You used to like this." I didn't touch it. "I don't drink sweet things anymore." His hand froze second. "When did you change?" 2 years ago. That was the year my stomach problems got serious and the doctor told me to cut back on sweet coffee. I had told him he had forgotten. Donovan was silent for a long time. "Sloan, I've done a lot of thinking these past few days. You were right. I took your efforts for granted and ignored your feelings. What happened on the train? I was completely in the wrong. I looked at him, and I'll handle the situation with Juliet. She'll be moved off the project team. I won't be looking out for her privately anymore. I laughed. You sound like you're handling a customer complaint. I'm trying to win you back, he said, agitated. Donovan, I'm not breaking up with you because you looked out for Juliet. He frowned. Then why? I placed 2 printed train tickets on the table. My original one in Juliet's. Look closely. My ticket was for Abney's class window seat. Hers was for a standard seat in a different car. When you let her sit in my seat, it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. You had planned for me to give it up from the start. His face palled. You didn't ask if I was willing, I continued. Because in your mind I would just accept it. He opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. I pulled out another document, the project permission log. You gave her access to my data without asking if I was willing because you thought my work was yours to give away as a favor. Then I took out the apartment payment records. Your mother used my money for her own needs and you never asked if I was okay with it because you thought I was going to be part of the family and my money was your family's money. Each document was like a slap in the face. Donovan's expression grew wider and wider. Finally I said, you didn't just hurt me on one particular day. Day by day, you turned me from a person into a resource. His eyes were red. Sloan, that's not what I thought. What you think doesn't matter. What you do does. He lowered his head, his voice. I was just under so much pressure. You're so capable. You do everything so well. Sometimes I feel useless next to you. Juliet is different. She needs me. His words finally tore away the last layer of pretense. So to prove you're useful, you decided to make me useless. He looked up sharply. No, it's not you. It's you needed someone to admire you, so you let her step on me. You needed a sense of accomplishment, so you let her take my work to prove herself. You weren't unaware that I would be hurt. You just thought I could handle it. Tears suddenly streamed down his face. I didn't move. In the past, the slightest sign of his exhaustion would make me soften. Now he just felt like a stranger. Just then a familiar voice came from the coffee shop entrance. Donovan. It was Juliet. She was wearing a pale blue coat, her eyes red, clutching her phone. Donovan saw her, his face darkened. What are you doing here? Juliet looked at him aggrieved. Called you but you didn't answer. I just want to know if the company is going to fire me. I took a sip of water. How convenient. Every one of her appearances felt rehearsed. Go home, Donovan said through gritted teeth. Juliet looked at me. Sloan, you're already breaking up with him. Why won't you let me go? I just like the way he took care of me. I never wanted to take anything from you. I put down my glass. You didn't want to take anything. She nodded, crying. I opened my phone and showed her the picture of her sitting in my office chair. Then what is this? Her face froze instantly. I turned the phone to Donovan. When he saw the picture, shock flashed in his eyes too. Juliet panicked. That was just a joke. Sitting in my chair is a joke. Using my pen is a joke. Posting online that you'll be sitting here one day is also a joke. I stood up. Juliet, you're not fragile. You're greedy. Her crying stopped. Picked up my bag. Donovan, you said you would handle her. It seems you can't even stop her from interrupting our final conversation. I moved to leave. He reached out to stop me. Loan. I sidestepped him. The terms of the agreement stand. 30 days. I walked out of the coffee shop. Behind me I heard Juliet, so Donovan, I really didn't mean it. Followed by Donovan's suppressed, angry voice. How did you get a picture in her office? I didn't look back. My phone buzzed. It was an email from the compliance department, Sloan, regarding Juliet's unauthorized access and external transfer of project data. We require your attendance at a formal debriefing meeting tomorrow morning. I looked at the email and smiled coldly. The final act was about to begin. The formal debriefing was held the next morning at 10 Mi in a closed HR conference room. Only David Sterling, the head of compliance and HR representative, Donovan, Juliet, and I were there. Juliet sat at the far end of the table, her face deathly white. Donovan sat in front of her, never looking back. Before the meeting started, David told me, "Sloan, just state the facts." He nodded. The head of compliance began by projecting the system logs based on our records. Juliet without authorization from the primary project lead. Sloan downloaded core project materials on multiple occasions, including the client persona model, budget breakdown, and competitor strategy drafts. Juliet immediately stood up. "I didn't send them to anyone. I just wanted to study them." The compliance head glanced at her. "We also found that you sent some of these files to an external private email address." The room went silent. Donovan whipped his head around to look at her. Juliet panicked. "That's my own email. I just wanted to work on it from home. Company policy prohibits sending core materials to private email accounts," the compliance head said flatly. "You signed the acknowledgement form on your first day of training." Juliet's tears started to fall again. This time no one sympathized. HR asked, "Who gave you access to these files?" Juliet looked at Donovan. His face was grim. "I granted her access, but I never authorized her to transfer externally." Juliet grew frantic. "But you said Sloan would be leaving to prepare for her wedding and that I needed to get familiar with the Boston project." Donovan's voice was sharp. "I never told you to break the rules." I sat back quietly watching them turn on each other. This was the reality of a relationship built on favoritism. The moment responsibility came knocking, it crumbled faster than paper. Char turned to me. "Sloan, were you aware of this?" "I was not." "Did you authorize it?" "No." "Did Juliet ever participate in core strategy development?" "No." "She was only responsible for meeting minutes and administrative tasks." Juliet cried. "But I organized a lot of the materials." I opened a folder on my laptop. "Your so-called organizing, was that changing the font on documents I created, or was it mispronouncing the client's name?" A few people in the room snickered. I continued. "The Boston project, from research to proposal to client communication, has a clear record of all core work. Every meeting summary, every strategy draft, every client confirmation has a clear owner." I projected the workflow onto the screen. My name appeared dozens of times. Juliet's name only appeared under support. The color drained from her face. David Sterling's expression darkened. "Donovan, why did the team contribution report you submitted list Juliet as a core participant?" That was the real bombshell. I turned to look at Donovan. He closed his eyes. "I wanted to give the newcomer a chance." I laughed. "Give her a chance with my work." Donovan didn't look at me. Juliet finally broke. "But you were the one who told me Sloan's approach was too aggressive and that you wanted me to help soften the project. Now you're acting like I did all of this on my own." The room grew tense. HR quickly tried to calm her down, but Juliet couldn't stop. "You also said you were only marrying her out of 5 years of habit. You said she was a good wife, but not someone who could make a man relax." Donovan slammed the table. "Juliet, it was too late. Everyone had heard." I sat in my chair, feeling surprisingly little. Perhaps the real disappointment had already happened on the train. This was just confirmation. The compliance head tapped the table. "Personal matters are not part of this discussion regarding the violation of data access and external transfer. We will submit our recommendation for disciplinary action." The meeting lasted an hour. The preliminary decision was clear. Juliet's internship would be terminated immediately. For the data breach, she would be required to sign an additional non-disclosure agreement. Donovan, for his management negligence and procedural violations, was removed as the Boston project lead and would be subject to a formal performance review. After the meeting, Juliet slumped in her chair. She suddenly looked at me, her eyes filled with resentment. "Are you happy now? You have everything. Why did you have to destroy me?" I gathered my files. "I didn't destroy you. You tried to take what wasn't yours. A sub. But you were going to get married anyway. What was wrong with giving up a little?" "Stop. Juliet, my marriage is not my retirement, And loving someone doesn't mean handing over my life. She stared at me, stunned. I picked up my files and walked out of the conference room. Donovan was waiting by the door. He looked like all the air had been sucked out of him. Sloan, I didn't know she sent the files to her private email. Issy. And I never expected her to say those things. Issy. He looked at my calm expression and his voice trembled. You don't care at all anymore, do you? I met his gaze. His face went white. Donovan, I said, when I used to care you called me assertive. Now that I don't, you can't stand it. You don't want love. You want control. He was struck by the words standing frozen in place. That afternoon, David Sterling officially handed the entire Boston project over to me. As I accepted the appointment email, I didn't feel the excitement I had imagined. I just felt that things were finally as they should be. Before leaving work, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Vivian. Her voice was a shriek. Sloan, you cost Donovan his project. I hope you're happy now. I could hear her sobbing hysterically on the other end. Stop. Vivian, this is a professional workplace. You know this is a workplace. You're the one who brought your personal drama here and ruined Donovan's reputation. Took out my phone. Do you need me to remind you who violated company policy by giving an intern unauthorized access? She was speechless. Continued. Donovan snorts. Lost his project because of his own mismanagement. Juliet was fired because she violated the rules. You need to repay your debt because you borrowed money. Everyone is facing the consequences of their own actions. Is that so hard to understand? Vivian's face was livid. She raised her hand to slap me, but a security guard intercepted her arm before it could connect. The lobby was filled with gasps. I'll be saving recording of this too, I said calmly. Vivian finally panicked. She lowered her hand, her voice still defiant. Don't be so ruthless. You're going to end up completely alone if you treat people this way. I laughed. That's fine by me. I turned and walked away. Behind me, she yelled in frustration. You'll regret this. I didn't turn back. I knew the one who would regret it wouldn't be me. The final settlement negotiation was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at my lawyer's office. Vivian had strongly objected, claiming a law firm was too ugly for a family matter. But Miss Jensen firmly insisted that legal disputes must be settled on neutral professional ground. When I arrived with Mr. Jensen and walked into the conference room, Vivian and Donovan were already there. Vivian sat stiffly in her chair, dressed in a dark suit, her face tense. Donovan sat beside her, looking utterly exhausted. When Vivian saw my lawyer, her expression soured. Sloan, this is a family matter. What is the meaning of escalating this legally? I took my seat because the last time we had a family matter, you almost assaulted me in my office lobby. Her face stiffened. Mr. Jensen distributed the documents. Today we are here to confirm 3 things. First, the dissolution of the engagement. Second, the settlement of assets. Third, the division of liabilities regarding the cancelled wedding contracts. Vivian sneered. It all comes down to money. Sloan, I never realized you were so calculating, and I never realized you were so good at not repaying your debts, I replied. She slammed the table. You, Mr. Jensen, calmly interjected. Mrs. Scott, please watch your language. We are recording this meeting. Vivian's anger was checked. Donovan looked at me, his voice low and pained. Sloan, please don't be like this. We were once a family. I looked at him. We were not, and we certainly aren't now. His eyes read. Seeing that aggression wasn't working, Vivian switched to a softer approach. Sloan, I admit my tone was harsh before, but every couple has bumps in the road. Donovan just made a small mistake that any man could make. Juliet has been fired. You got the project back. What more do you want? I laughed. You think I'm calling off our wedding because of a project? What else could it be? Then you truly don't know me at all. Vivian chimed in again. Sloan, don't be so stubborn. You've invested 5 years in this relationship. You shouldn't just walk away. Calling off a wedding is a huge embarrassment. The fact that Donovan is still willing to work on this shows he cares about you. I looked at her. He's willing to marry me. Of course, Vivian said self-righteously. After all this, he's still trying to save the relationship. That shows he has you in his heart. He nodded. Then I took out my phone and played the recording from the debriefing meeting. You also said you were only marrying her out of 5 years of habit. You said she was a good wife, but not someone who could make a man relax. As the audio played, their faces changed. Vivian fell silent. I looked at Donovan. Is this what you call being willing to marry me? His face was ashen. That was Juliet talking nonsense. I then displayed the text he had sent me. Don't make a big deal about the wedding. My mother will never agree. You'd better not provoke my mother. We have 5 years of history. You can't just end it with a text. From start to finish, I said. You never once asked if I was still willing. You just assumed I couldn't be unwilling. He hung his head, his fists clenched. Vivian grew desperate. Even if Donovan said the wrong thing, you forced him to. What man can stand a woman as strong as you? I didn't argue. I just pushed a document in front of her. This is a detailed list of the loans you took from me over the past 3 years, totaling $38,000. Please confirm the repayment deadline in the agreement. Vivian's face flushed in panic. That's slander. When did I ever borrow that much from you? I opened my chat history and her own voice filled the room. Sloan, dear, my investment hasn't matured yet. Could you transfer me $5,000? I'll pay you back in a few days. Sloan, don't tell Donovan. He's so busy with work. Sloan, once you're part of the family, I won't treat you poorly. One message after another. Vivian's face went from red to white. Donovan looked at his mother in shock. You borrowed that much money from Sloan. Vivian avoided his gaze. It was for family expenses. Why didn't you tell me? What's the use of telling you? Your salary barely covers the mortgage. With that admission, the room fell dead silent. It turned out that the dignity she was so proud of was half funded by me. I placed the apartment contribution sheet in the middle of the table. The down payment was $200,000. I paid $150,000. The renovations were $100,000. I paid $60,000. The engagement party, photos, and wedding keys deposits totaled $48,000. I paid $41,000. So please, I looked around the room. Do not say that I have taken any advantage of this family. No one spoke. Donovan's shoulders slumped. He seemed to finally understand how much I had given over the past 5 years. But understanding was not compensation. Vivian tried one last time. That was all of your own free will. It was, I said, which is why I'm letting the emotional investment go. But the loans and the shared assets are not voluntary gifts. Mr. Jensen added, if the other party refuses to sign, we will proceed with litigation and submit all evidence. Vivian finally panicked. She looked at Donovan. Donovan, say something, but Donovan only looked at me. Sloan, if I sign this now, are we really over? We were over the moment I got off that train, I said calmly. Tears fell from his eyes. A 31-year-old man crying across the negotiation table. In the past, I would have softened. I would have handed him a tissue and smoothed things over. Now I just pushed the agreement a little closer. Sign it. His hand trembled as he picked up the pen. He looked at me, still trying to play the victim. Sloan, I just made a mistake. A stupid mistake with an intern. I pulled one last printed document from my folder and slid it across the table. Juliet sent me an email after she was fired yesterday. She realized you were going to let her take all the blame, so she decided to share a few things. Call it mutually assured destruction. Vivian frowned. What is that? Chat history. I said calmly. I read it aloud so Mr. Jensen's recorder could catch every word. Donovan's text to Juliet. Get familiar with the Boston project. I'll give you opportunities later. Sloan will likely scale back her work after the wedding. You can take her place. She's too aggressive. I need someone like you who can work with me. The room was dead silent. Donovan's face went completely ashen. Vivian's eyes widened in horror. She stared at her son. Donovan, you wrote that. She also sent the screenshots detailing how you brought her coffee, gave her your coat, and told her to take my seat on the train. I added. The words were a slap in the face. Vivian, who had spent the whole afternoon trying to maintain the moral high ground, went pale today. Her facade was completely shattered. Her own son hadn't just been looking out for a newcomer. He had actively groomed her to replace me. Donovan finally broke the silence, his voice trembling, slow as just venting. I never promised her anything permanent. It doesn't matter, I said, finding it all so ironic. On the train, Juliet sat in my seat, thinking she had won. Donovan stood beside her, thinking I would yield. Vivian sat in her seat of authority, thinking she could crush me. They had all miscalculated. I stood up. Are you two done fighting? Everyone looked at me. I handed a final document to Mr. Jensen. He opened his laptop and turned the screen toward them, displaying the confirmed wedding contract cancellations, the hotel booking termination, the path of the refunded deposits, and the repayment schedule for the apartment funds. Today was supposed to be a simple settlement negotiation, I said. But since everyone is here, let's make it all crystal clear. I looked at Donovan. First, the engagement is terminated. Your disagreement does not change my decision. I looked at Vivian. Second, the loan repayment. You can sign the agreement or you can wait for a court summons. Third, I continued, my voice firm. From this day forward, neither of you are to contact me in any way. Any harassment, any showing up at my door, any slander, and I will report it to the police or file a harassment lawsuit. Donovan was finally panicking. Sloan, don't be like this. I looked at him. You're still saying don't be like this. Then tell me, what should it be like? His lips trembled. I answered for him. Should I have swallowed my pride on the train, continued on the business trip, and kept cleaning up your messes? Should I have accepted Juliet's provocations and your mother's oppression, and kept paying for a wedding? Should I have buried all my hurt and walked down the aisle with a smile on my face? Is that what it should be like? Tears streamed down his face again. No. Then what? He couldn't answer. Donovan, I said, you're not incapable of love. You just love yourself more than anyone else. No one in the room spoke. I handed him the pen. Sign it. This time, he didn't ask if there was any room for discussion. He lowered his head and signed his name. Vivian cried out, Donovan. Donovan's voice was horror. Mom, stop making a scene. That phrase, stop making a scene. It was finally his turn to say it to his mother. Vivian looked as if she'd been slapped, frozen in place. She had used that line to control me. Now she knew how it felt. Mr. Jensen confirmed the signature and collected the agreements. The payments are due as per the agreed. Upon schedule, we will pursue legal action for any delays. Vivian bit her lip, but she didn't dare say another word. I picked up my bag to leave. Donovan followed me out. The hotel hallway was long and brightly lit. He called out behind him to me. Sloan. Stop. He caught up. His eyes bloodshot. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I looked at him. Okay, I won't be like this again. I'll cut things off completely with Juliet. I'll make sure my mom pays you back. I'll sell the apartment to pay you. Can you please not go? His voice was almost a whisper, a plea. I suddenly remembered his face as the train doors closed. His brow furrowed as he looked at me from inside the car. He had plenty of chances to get off then. But he didn't. He stayed on the train. He stayed with Juliet. Donovan, I said, you didn't get off the train that day. He froze. So don't chase me today. Finished. I turned and stepped into the elevator. As the doors slowly closed, he stood there, tears falling down his face. I didn't feel a shred of pity. This time I was the one closing the door. After the agreement was signed, things moved faster than I expected. Donovan sold off some investments and took out a second mortgage on the apartment, returning my down payment and renovation costs in 2 installments. Vivian's repayment was more reluctant. With the first payment, she sent me a long text about how I had no loyalty, how heartless I was, and how I would regret it one day. I didn't reply. I just blocked her number. I also limited my communication with Donovan to our lawyers. I didn't read any of his personal messages. Maya later told me he had gone to the wedding planner's office and stood for a long time in front of the backdrop that had been designed for us. That backdrop was eventually dismantled. Our names torn off. He looked pretty pathetic, Mia said. Did you feel sorry for him? Yes. Mia immediately shook her head. No, I just think it's his own fault for only learning to cherish something after he lost it. Smiled. Indeed. At the office, the Boston project was back on track. The client was so pleased they added a second phase to the contract. At the all-hands meeting, David Sterling publicly praised my work. When I stood up to speak, the applause was loud. I didn't look at Donovan. He sat in the back row looking haggard. Because of the project incident, he had been moved out of the core business unit and into an internal process management role. It wasn't a career-ending blow, but for him it was painful enough. After being fired, Juliet tried to write a sob story online about being bullied in the workplace, suppressed by a jealous fiancé, and used by her boss. But within half a day, the company's legal team contacted the platform and had the parts containing confidential project information taken down. She then tried to frame herself as a victim in a love triangle, but someone posted the picture of her sitting in my office chair. The comments section quickly turned against her. This isn't learning. This is scheming. You take someone's seat, take their data, and then cry victim. The first lesson an intern should learn is not to touch what isn't yours. She never surfaced online again. Donovan, however, did appear one more time. I was at my lawyer's office to finalize the last of the asset settlement documents. He was there too. He was much thinner than the last time I'd seen him. We sat at the conference table. The notary public verified our IDs. Both parties are signing of their own free will to complete the asset settlement. Confirmed, I said. Donovan hesitated for 2 seconds. Confirmed. The notary stamped the documents. The moment the stamp hit the paper, I felt a sudden sense of lightness, as if a 5-year burden had finally been lifted. Outside the lawyer's office, Donovan called my name, Sloan. I stopped but didn't turn around. He said, I've been thinking a lot lately. If on the train that day I had told Juliet to get up, or if I had gotten off the train with you, would things be different? I looked at the road ahead. His breath caught. I turned to face him. But you didn't. His eyes re-emitted again. I offered him. No more illusions, Donovan. In life, many things can't be undone with an apology. When I got off that train, it wasn't an impulsive act. It was the moment I finally saw clearly that there was no seat for me in your world. I'm sorry, he whispered. I've received your apology, I said. He looked at me as if wanting to say more. I spoke first. Let's not contact each other again. His jaw tightened. Finally he nodded. Bae. I turned and walked away. This time he didn't follow. 2 months later, we had a celebration for the successful completion of the Boston project. The client, Mr. Hayes, presented me with a bouquet of flowers. Sloan, he said with a smile. It's been a pleasure. You are both steady and sharp. I accepted the flowers. Thank you. After the celebration dinner, I went to the train station alone, not to escape, but to head to Boston for the kickoff meeting of the project's second phase. I arrived half an hour early, bought a hot coffee, and went through the gate. I found my seat, a business-class window seat. I stowed my luggage and sat down. This time no one was in my spot. As the train started to move, I watched the city recede outside my window. A message from Maya came through on my phone. Good luck with the new project and congratulations on being single again. I smiled and replied. Thank you, she asked. Do you still believe in love? I thought for a moment I do, but I believe in myself more. After sending the message, I turned off my phone. The sky outside was bright. I suddenly thought of that evening when I got off the train. I was standing on the platform then, my chest aching as if it had been torn open. I thought I had lost 5 years. Now I knew it wasn't a loss. It was cutting my losses. When someone is sitting in the wrong seat, you don't have to make a scene for everyone to see. You just have to pick up your own luggage, get off and catch the train that is meant.